Hello, everyone. Hi, Lizzie. How are you today?
Hi, good morning. I'm
Can
doing well,
you hear
thank
me
you.
well?
I can, thank you.
Okay. And how are you today? Thanks so much for giving us a time on weekend.
Absolutely, no problem. I'm doing well, thank you. How are you?
I'm good too, thanks. And we have winters coming in here, so you might see me in a jacket now. And
Oh, nice. Where are you based out of?
currently in Sydney, yeah,
Oh, cool.
yeah. So it's starting of winters, and it's pretty cold out here. How about you?
We just came out of a very harsh and difficult winter, so I am so ready for the spring.
Yeah, it's
Yes,
change of weather and all. Yeah.
yeah.
Okay, so we have 5 minutes, and Dhruvin might not be able to join um, sometime sooner, so he is busy in some other meeting. So
Okay,
we'll start in 4 minutes from now, and
sure.
yeah,
So just while we wait for them to join, I'll just ask. Would you start with an introduction and then do we take question answers at the end?
yeah, absolutely. So you can proceed with your session, and at the end we will take the Q&A.
Okay.
And yeah,
Is this streaming elsewhere or is everyone joining this Teams call? The
so
audience.
it's in the Teams call, and after 2 days it would be going on to YouTube as well.
Okay,
So yeah.
but thank you.
We'll just wait for a couple of more minutes, and we can get started.
Okay, sounds good.
Hi, Rajendra. How are you?
Hi Kumar, how are you?
I'm good, thanks.
Yeah.
So, are we waiting for RO as well, Rajendra?
No,
Uh,
we will start actually. Once
uh,
the speaker is
hmm.
available, we will start. And Kumar, you are going to stop the recording or else you want me to take control next?
Yeah, I will. You can take the control and you can
Okay.
stop the recording. Yeah,
Okay then.
later.
Okay. Once you intro, right? Once you give the intro,
Yeah,
after that I
yeah,
will
yeah.
connect with the Power Platform thing, and then we will stop, and then we'll next session I will start it. Okay.
Okay, okay. That makes sense.
Thank you. Yeah.
All right, so we are on time and I think we can get started. So let me turn on the recording first. I have started the recording. Okay. Okay. So good morning to all our viewers and good afternoon and good evening, depending on wherever you are. On behalf of Delhi Tech Community and Delhi Power BI User Group, I welcome you all for the AI Bootcamp 2025. So for today, we have a bunch of speakers starting from none other than Microsoft MVP Lizzie Thomas. And throughout the day, we would be talking about AI, ML, Copilot, SharePoint, and all those cool features of Microsoft Azure AI that they have provided. So without much ado, I will hand over the mic to Lizzie, who can share the insights on Azure Foundry. And over to you, Lizzie.
Hey, thank you, Kumar. Hello, everyone. Nice to meet you all. As Kumar said, good morning, good evening, wherever you're joining from. And thank you for making time to join this session on building trustworthy AI applications using Azure AI Foundry. My name is Lizzie Thomas. I'm a Microsoft AI MVP, and I'm based out of Midwest US, and it's a pleasure to share this time and space with you. So let me go ahead and share my screen and we can jump right into it. Give me one moment to find my deck. There we go. I hope you can see my screen. I
Yes.
will, thank you, and I will get us started. So a lot of you might be familiar with the AI space, probably the generative AI space. It's one of the most talked about technologies in the recent years. Um, when Gen AI was made a very happening, it was a very happening space, and there was a lot of talk around thanks to ChatGPT and all the amazing technological improvements there. The initial so-called hype was about seeing what this technology was capable of and how we would get it to work. 2 years down the line, people are mostly sold on the potential and the promise of this technology. And now the focus seems to have moved on and matured more into not just how to create a generative AI application, but how to create a responsible and trustworthy Gen AI application. So, as you would come to appreciate, the two are uh, quite different. You may choose to create one that is trustworthy, or may choose to not have efforts invested in that. So, I think we take two steps back to kind of look at what are the risks, so to speak, in specifically to a generative AI application. So security risks, as you can see here in generative AI, come at multiple levels. Even before artificial intelligence was introduced, our security teams needed to secure a lot of things, especially basic things like the application, the identity, the devices, the network, data. So now with AI, they have to handle new risks because AI brings new risks, like you have unsafe prompts or responses. There's risks in the training data itself, risks in the models. So these risks, they create bigger threats, like jailbreaks or data leaks or prompt attacks. So to stay ahead of all of these, the security teams, our security engineers need security tools and clear frameworks that will allow them to take care of the IT, the security, the safety, the compliance, and all of that. So that's where um, Microsoft's Azure AI Foundry and the capabilities that it provides really falls into place. In fact, Azure AI Foundry is a collection of tools. It makes it easy for any developer to easily and quickly build, customize, evaluate, and operationalize generative AI applications. There's a lot of capabilities available out of the box from Foundry. And before we get into the security capabilities and the standpoint that it provides, I'd say that Foundry in itself, there are different ways in which you can use that. So you can use a pro code experience or a low code experience. But what makes Foundry really unique, and again, you will see this with the security side of it as well, is that you can customize every layer of the stack. For example, we say foundational models, right? You can bring any type of model. There are over 1,800 models in the catalog today. So you can bring open source models. You have industry leading models from Microsoft and others. In terms of data sources, you can bring multiple data sources. You can, even to the point, to the agenda of this meeting, you can customize the safety system. So we'll talk a lot about how you might be able to configure and customize that safety system and make it really relevant for the kind of applications that you are building. So if you think about all the risks or the vectors we talked about in the previous slide from an IT security standpoint, from creating a trustworthy generative AI applications, you can think about now how might you be able to mitigate this and do so at scale. So a couple of more slides and I'll jump right into the demo. Um, when we typically talk about risk mitigation, there's an over indexing on the model layer. Think about it. Anytime we hear a new model has been released or a new model has come out, our attention immediately goes into how safe and how secure is that model. But if you think about it, there are various layers or levels at which this safety mitigation needs to happen. Specifically, four layers, as Microsoft would call out. So one is the model, but beyond that, around the model, you can have a safety system. You can have a system message or a grounding data layer, and you can have the experience layer. And we'll talk about each of this, and at each level, how can you mitigate the risk? So the first two, the model and the safety system, these are not very much, it is independent of the application. So you will see that this has been kind of built into the Azure AI Foundry. The last two, the prompt and the user experience is very much core or central to your specific use case or your application. So what Foundry does is it provides the necessary tools to set it up, but you can do your level of customization at your level as well. So these are the 4 risk mitigation layers that we were talking about. So the model, the safety system, the system message or the grounding data, and then you have the user experience. Now, let's start with the model layer. As we discussed, in the Foundry itself, you have over 1,800 models to select from, and this just keeps growing by the day. It all starts with the model. So one special set of models that you can choose from is called Azure AI Collection. Um, what is special about this collection is that it goes one step further. So Microsoft has partnered with this entity called HiddenLayer to scan all the models in this collection for tampering or for malicious code, which means it provides a higher layer of security than others. So with these benchmarks and annotations, you can make more informed decisions about model selection. Otherwise, typically you would go into Foundry, you would look at a model, you can select a model, and in that model, you will get all the details from that model provider for, how this model, where this model should be used, and so on and so forth. So one way that we can build trustworthiness into this is there are ways in which to enhance the control. Uh, they've introduced a new Azure policy that lets, let's say, for example, IT admins, you can restrict which models the developers can use. So through the Azure portal itself, you can configure policies to allow only specific model providers or versions, which means, say, of the 1,800 models, you decide that your developer should not deploy a specific or unapproved model from the model catalog. That policy will be able to block that action. So that means you can ensure more compliance and governance standards on that. So there's so, even though you have access to all of these models, there are security and compliance guardrails or governance things, policies that you can set around that model, so to speak. So once we've taken care of the model layer, now the next comes the safety system. So Azure AI Content Safety, even before Foundry was in place, if you're familiar with this, this is what gives you the ability to do a lot of the foundational content safety mechanisms. I mean, choosing the model is a really good start, but it's not enough. We know that many models have built-in safety features, to prevent attacks, but even the best models can make mistakes. So even if you fine tune a model and you optimize it for a specific domain, there can be loopholes in that. Every model is vulnerable to potential attacks. So to address this, Microsoft has applied an AI-driven safety system that surrounds the model. So both inputs to the model and outputs from the model can now detect any mistakes or any signs of an attack. So this system is called Azure AI Content Safety, and it's very deeply integrated into the Azure API. So it provides an additional layer of protection in addition to the model. So if you remember our previous layer. So you have a protection that is coming out of the box from the model, built into the model, but the safety system provides an additional layer of protection over and above the model. Now, even if that is not enough, here's how you provide even beyond the safety system. You can provide another pillar of protection by means of the system message and the grounding data. So that is where we are going to go next. And we'll show demos of all of these, and we'll play around with it. We'll explore the Foundry to see how this can be done. But know that in the Foundry, it is possible for you to be able to even explore how you can provide these system messages that will keep your application safe. So without much ado, let me just switch to my demo screen here. Bear with me 1 minute as I do that. And let's see. All right. So on screen here, what you are seeing is the Azure AI Foundry. I have logged into the Azure AI Foundry portal. And here on the left hand side, you will see a number of options for us to choose from if you are fairly new to Azure AI Foundry. And on the right hand side, you can actually play around with a few of it. So let's see. This is the model catalog that I was alluding to. And each of these models that are available here, you can search around and you can explore these variety of models that are made available to you. And again, if additional safety systems to ensure that only the approved models are deployed can be done using policies. We'll get to playgrounds in a bit, but I want to jump right into this section called safety and security. So if you, let's start right from the beginning. The overview talks a little bit about the philosophy behind how to approach safety and security, but I'm sure you are waiting to try out some of these. And you can do this by means of just directly going into the link ai.azure.com, or you can search for Azure AI Foundry. You will need to sign in to the portal. I am signed in right now. Um, uh, the only caveat I'd add is that I have created a content safety resource in the Azure portal before this to in the interest of time. So you will need to create a content safety resource in the Azure portal. And you will see that I have connected some of the a resource over here to try out some of this. We'll also say that when you try it out or when you explore these capabilities in the playground, there is a cost that is being incurred against that particular resource. So it's just something to bear in mind. The other thing I would also like to call out is, just given the nature of um, uh, the talk that we are having and the around building trustworthy and responsible AI, it is quite difficult, suboptimal, but challenging to not be able to do so without showing you some content that is sometimes harmful or inappropriate as it's written here. So we'll go through some of the examples, but a disclaimer or a caveat there as well. So the first feature or functionality we want to try is how to moderate text content. Now, I'd say as a Gen AI developer, you have enough going on. You want to create AI applications that will serve a purpose, will solve a problem, will meet business impact. And you would appreciate having any help upfront is from the platform side to take care of a lot of these threats and vulnerabilities that all Gen AI applications are prone to. In terms of moderating text content, there is a lot of features available here that I will walk you through, which will allow you to think that you may not need to build all of this from scratch. You don't have to reinvent the wheel, so to speak. For example, there are some examples here I will try out again. Apologies, this is some of this can be insensitive content as it's called out here, but that's probably the only way we can do a demo for these kind of content. But I'll start by saying before we even go to the test there, I wanted to walk you through this. Now, the way you can configure, as we've talked about this previously, though there is a safety system that is built by Foundry, you have the power to configure it. It is completely in your hands how you might customize the safety system. What I mean by that is Here you will see that there are 4 layers of safety, 4 dimensions of safety that are being covered. You have violence, self-harm, sexual, and hate. And what it is doing is it is allowing you to set a threshold level. You can set a threshold of low, medium, or high. Completely up to you. For each of these dimensions, you can set low, medium, or high. What does that mean? For example, if I set violence to low, it is the meaning is I am asking the system to block all content of low, medium, and high degrees of threshold. Like my threshold now is very, very low. My tolerance level is low. So I do not want any kind of violent content to come through. If it is medium, appropriately. If it is high, I am allowing low and medium. I am only blocking highly violent content. So depending on your specific use case, you may decide where you want to set the threshold level. By default, all thresholds are at medium. So let's try this out. Let's see. For example, let's start with a safe content here. I'll allow you to read that for a minute. It is about chopping, but chopping vegetables. So because it is a Gen AI application, it will hopefully understand the difference between chopping vegetables and chopping anything else. So when we run this test, again, bear in mind, this is our default threshold levels all set to medium. I am running the test and let's see if the results of the test, this content has been allowed, no problems. All categories are accepted based on the severity threshold. So it determined that there is no problem with this piece of content based on the threshold I have provided. It is allowing all of it. Let's take another piece of content here. This is more of a violent content. And let's run the same test on that piece of content. And we see here that the system has blocked this content. And it also explains why. It was rejected by the filter in the violence category. Let me explain. In the violence category, we said that our threshold is medium, which means it is supposed to allow low and block medium to high severity content. Now, this piece of content was violent, so the threshold we had set was medium. It determined that the severity level was medium, so it blocked it. In other words, let me try and just show this how this would work for you. If I set it to high, I told it I am good with low and medium. Please allow low and medium level content and block only high. Let's run the test again. And you will see that the content has now been allowed. Why? Because I set the threshold as high. Even though it determined that the severity level was medium, it allowed the medium because my threshold I had set was high, if that makes sense. So here's where the whole aspect of responsible AI comes into play. Yes, we have tools and capabilities available from the platform side. We will continue to see more powerful capabilities come across. But at the end of the day, the power is in the hands of the developer, the people who actually create, who make these solutions and who bring this to life. You can choose how to configure your safety systems. If you want to set your thresholds at what level and what degree of content should be allowed and disallowed is completely in your hands. So you get the idea. You can try that with, languages in more than one, sentences in more than one language. You can have multiple risk categories. One single piece of content can be in violation of a couple of these dimensions. So it doesn't necessarily have to just be one. So you can try some of these. You can even bring in your own content. You want to type something, you can test it out. But this is a quick playground for you to try some of these things. I think will be very easy before you decide to integrate it into your code. Now, if you like what you're seeing here, if it's good, great, you like it, you want to bring it into your code, here's how you would do it. You just scroll all the way down. You see next steps here. Again, you can test with a larger data set in bulk, but here's where I'd say view code. So in view code, you would see that you can actually C Sharp, Java, Python. You will get a boilerplate template of the entire code. This is basically what it's doing is connecting to your endpoint and getting your keys and calling the content moderator, the safety APIs. You'll see that right at the end over here. And it is going to parse through the thresholds that you have set and determine if the content is allow to be allowed or to be blocked. So something for you to get a head start on. It's just code that you can copy into your IDE and you can try it out as a prototype. So, and there's of course a lot of learn articles and others if you want to read further on that. So similar to moderating text content, there's a lot of rich capabilities that are available here. Groundedness. You're probably, if you're familiar with RAG-based applications, retriever augmented generated applications, this is an area that is of much focus because one of the biggest challenges we deal with is what is popularly called hallucinations. When a user asks a question and the AI responds with an answer, um, if we have asked it to ground its responses in a set of content, we expect it to give us credible responses from that. But at times, it tends to rely on its foundational knowledge and respond back with ungrounded uh, responses, which is not based on the content that we asked it to serve. So that is, how do we detect this groundedness? And that is a huge area of focus and attention because it's a true pain point for those who work in RAG-based applications. So that is also a capability that is available from Azure AI Content Safety. So you can bring your own sample, or you can run your own sample set here. And when you run it, you can even have options to, okay, explain to me why you found this to be ungrounded, show the reasoning alone, or a correction, suggestion, so on and so forth. I will say that for this particular feature, there is depending on the if you want to choose reasoning only, or you want don't show reasoning, or you want to even correct the feature, correct the suggestion that is provided, as in the response comes, you find that you detect that it is ungrounded, you turn on the auto correction feature so it goes and corrects it and then brings it back to you. Bear in mind, there's probably a latency that is involved inside this. So depending on your specific use case, you may choose to you turn on specific features here. But you get the idea. When you run the test, it will be able to detect for you whether it's ungrounded or not, and then correct it if that's of further interest to you. So specifically for RAG-based applications, that is a very powerful solution. Protected material detection. If you want to check if a piece of content is actually protected lyrics or protected material, or anything that is available on the internet that you are not comfortable using in your source code or your controlling, that is something that you can try out. So I chose the wrong here. Let me try that again. And it is able to detect and tell you whether protected material has been detected, because you want to be safe with the usage of your data sources as well. So same thing you can do with code as well. And you'll find a lot of other features here, just like we had done with text content, you can do with image content. I think multimodal content is very popular because most of the content that goes into AI applications these days is not just text or not just images or audio. It is all of that. So being able to run these moderation tests on multi-model content, I think is very, very powerful. And trust me, when, in the initial phases of Azure AI content safety or this, we didn't have a lot of these features, but now I see that by the day, more and more features and capabilities are getting added to content safety, and I truly expect more to come here in the future as well. So this is all great. You've tried it out. How can we use this? Um, let's go back into the playground here. All right. So here you'd see, if you're not familiar with the playground, this is where you would consider this a chat interface where you can ask your questions and it will give your responses. So here I have a mod. So you will need to create a deployment to be able to try this out. You can give your system prompt or your instructions all there, and you can say, you can try out anything in the playground here and it will give you a response. At this point, I have not grounded it in any data sources. We're just playing around with the chat interface itself. So let's try out a couple of things. So let's say if I simply ask it to write a song, and it will say anything, and you can continue to have a conversation with it. But what if I ask it something that is not entirely safe? For example, sorry, write a harmful, hateful song. um, Maybe as a systems developer, this is not something you want to allow for in your particular application. Consider your application to be a songwriting application to start with. So if a user comes and says, write a harmful, hateful song, maybe you don't want to allow that. So what do you do in such situations? In this particular case, if you see the response, it says the prompt was filtered due to triggering Azure OpenAI Services content filtering system, and the prompt contains hateful content. Now, let me explain how I did this. This is not the default behavior. If I go back into safety and security, you're very familiar with how the thresholds are set and the capabilities that are available. I created what is called a content filter. Let me show you the content filter that I created. So I added some basic information. And in this content filter, again, there are two kinds of filters you can apply: input filter and the output filter. Input filter is all the content that goes into your model. You can set thresholds for that. Output filter is to filter the content that is produced by your model, comes out of your model. Separate set of thresholds you can set for that. This is the input filter. Now, by default, it was all medium. I reduced it to low. Excuse me. So I set everything as low and I'm proceeding further. Output filter as well. I set everything as low. It was medium to begin with. I changed the thresholds to low because I have very low tolerance levels for this. And I said next. I asked it to apply it to all models of GPT-4o and 402, and I hit next, and I would save it. So that's how I went about to create this particular filter that is now applied to any GPT-4 or 4.2 deployments that I have done. So if I go back to the playground, you will see that that filter that I created there is now applied or is applicable to this one. That is why any instruction that I provide to this effect actually is now filtered by the content safety. If that was not there in play, it will not be filtering this out. I'll take it out for a minute and I will show you. But before that, I want to show you another thing. So what if I do write an idiotic song? Let's try something else. Now, if you see here, the messaging is a little different from what we had seen previously. When I asked it to write a harmful, hateful song, it did not do that, which is great. And it is the reason it did not do that is because it was flagged as a low hatred, but a hate piece of content, and it was filtered out by Azure OpenAI. Now, I tried using another word there, which would probably not have been caught by the content filter, but I still did not want it to be applied. So what I did, I applied it under a block list. Now, let me show you how I did that, because here it says the prompt was flagged because it was found inside the block list. Initially when I applied just the content filter, I didn't have a lot of success with that second request that I had put in. So what I did is I went ahead and created a block list. It's very simple to create a block list. You would just create a block list, give it a name, and then once you create a block list, you can go in there and you can add any term that you want. So what happens is whatever term you put in here, it can be an exact match or a regex match. It will it will use that term to block out that piece of content on the input and or the output. And let me show you how to do that. So I have added this term in the block list. And this block list now I have connected it or added it to my content filter. So if you remember, I had my content filter here with all the thresholds, which was good enough for weeding out any hateful, harmful songs, but not more than that. So what I did is I came here, and this is by default, it is turned off, but I turned on and I selected the block list that I had applied. And I did that same thing for both the input as well as for the output filter. And then when I go back to the playground, I see that, okay, here's an additional thing over and above what the content filtering system does for me. I can even add terms into my block list. So there's so much configurability and customization that you can do to make your systems more safe and trustworthy. If you remember in our original diagram in our PowerPoint slide, we started with the model. There's always built-in functionality that comes from the model, safety features on the model. Now we added an additional layer of coverage in terms of the content safety system. You can even build that into your system prompt itself. Now, the best way to do that is as part of your model instructions or your system prompt, you can add sections on how to deal with these kinds of messages. One of my recent and most favorite parts of Azure Foundry is where you can use this add section, safety system messages. You can choose to write safety system messages to avoid harmful content, ungrounded content, copyright infringements, jailbreak and manipulation, or you can select all of it. Now, note the number of tokens that are associated with each of these messages. What that means is you would realize that that token has a direct impact on your performance and your cost. So if you need to be mindful about that, this is a good input as well. So I went ahead and I selected all of them, and let's see what it does. You'll see that in the safety system message, it has, let me expand this a little for you. It will say exactly what it should or should not be doing. You must not generate content that may be harmful. You must not include any speculation or inference. So a lot of good instructions are now included. I need to apply these changes so that it is taken into account. And that is also an additional way in which, if I say, write hateful, harmful song, um, it is take care of that. Now let's go back here and let's turn off that content filter. How I can turn off that content filter is I will turn it off from the model. So now it is no longer applied to the model. Sometimes it takes a while for this to reflect. So let's see if it is ready. I will just copy that for the sake of time. Yes, sometimes we just need to give it a minute for it to reflect that. But you see, now that I have applied the safety system messages, it says that I'm sorry, I can't assist with that request itself. So let's try deleting this and applying the changes. And I always like to reset and clear the chat so it is clear that we are starting from the beginning and it doesn't apply that. So it's probably a part of the model behavior itself. So you have so much that you can provide from a content safety system, from a block list, from a playground perspective in terms of adding safety messages. There are so many ways in which you can add more safety filters and make your applications more trustworthy in nature. So let me go back to my deck right now and uh, complete with the slides as well. All right. So we were here in terms of the system message, and we will just before we wrap up, and I'm happy to take any questions or comments after this as well. Quick time check. Um, we looked at how your application, your experience is now tied to the platform experience as well, with all the capabilities available from the platform. You see how the safety systems and the system messages play a huge part in that. We didn't get to talk a lot about evaluation and monitoring, which is a session in itself. But I think the key takeaway or the learning from this entire experience is that risk mitigation is a shared responsibility. There's only so much that a platform or a platform provider can actually do. It's a just like we talk about security and other systems, even before AI was a thing, right? We talk about it being a shared responsibility principle where we have the application developers do their bit and in addition to the capabilities that the platform providers or the platform is providing. So with that, I will leave some links to certain resources, which I think is helpful. Particularly, I will call out the Microsoft Learn collections and articles on these harm categories and severity levels. If you'd like to dig a little deeper into that, that will be quite a helpful source of content for you. And with that, I will wrap it up and I will open it up to any questions or comments or just even your learnings from what you've worked on and seen in this space. Would love to learn from you. But thank you for your time and attention.
Thanks a lot, Lizzie. It was an amazing session. Guys, if you have any question, you can post it in the chat, or else you can unmute yourself and ask Lizzie right here now. Lizzie, one question I had regarding the licensing and the dollar value of how much we would be paying if we are using it on a live production environment.
Yeah. Great question. So if you note, these are all available for integration using content safety APIs. So just like you would go any other PayGo model, it will depend on the number of times that API has been called and it has been used. It is as simple as that. So when you eventually, so the portal itself that I showed you was just a low code, no code way for you to play around with that stuff. But eventually, when you want to integrate into your applications, it will be an API integration, right? So the number of times you will, those safety APIs are invoked is probably the cost that you will incur.
Got it. Got it. And Microsoft do provides a trial version as well, I think, for Azure AI Foundry, 30 days or some credits that they
Yes, yeah. I think even for the Azure, the classic Azure portal,
yeah,
I mean,
yeah,
there's always credits that you can use, and you can create a subscription model for a certain period of time. That should allow you to create whatever resource you need, even your content safety resources, you should be able to create for a certain period of time if you want to quickly try them out. Connect it to this portal, and then you can always play around with it. It is not a lot of work, but it is still work to integrate the
yeah,
APIs and then see the results of it. Um, the, you'll have to wait for a time before you actually know whether this thing is working or not. But the playground is a quick start. You can bring in
yeah,
your data sources, you can plug it
yeah,
in, you will see, you can show people around in your team, like, is this what we want? Is this working as expected? It
mm,
will give you a sense of like, okay, is this worth the investment? So should we go it this way? Depending on your use case, there might be a lot of tweaking and tuning that you have to do to get it to a place that will actually work for you, because every
yeah,
every application is unique, right? What
yeah,
works for you may not be the another application. For example, a healthcare application or a financial service application, their risk tolerance is very
yeah,
low. That will not be the risk tolerance of a marketing application or another kind of application, right? So depending on your application, you will have to play around and see what is the best fit for you, what serves your purpose. And when you are good with all those thresholds and those values, because it's always easy to work in a no code
yeah,
environment, try
absolutely.
it out, and then you have the code there to just copy paste and get started on it.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
I'd say for any production level application that you're actually putting in front of live users, I cannot imagine a Gen AI application without these kind of features
yeah,
today
yeah,
shipped into market. It is not just about the generative AI capabilities are very shiny, very nice, very interesting, but users will always look for how is my data being used? How much of how safe is the system? Can people use it the way however they want it to? So it's so much is available out of the box. Otherwise, think about it. We would have had to build all of this in addition to
yeah,
taking care of the generative AI piece as well.
yeah.
So it's a very powerful capability.
And Lizzie, is it uh, good to integrate this with other Microsoft tools like Azure apps and Azure functions and Logic apps maybe, and it gives a lot of possibilities.
Yes,
Yeah,
absolutely. Yes. The kind of thing about it, we talk a lot about these post-generative AI
yeah,
era, but there is nothing stopping from you from using this even with classic applications. Like
yep,
if there is a need for you to make your mobile application or your Windows application anything more safe and secure, they have the interesting part is it's a quite a paradox. They say AI is not safe.
yeah,
Content safety under the hood is using AI to moderate all this content. So it is basically AI algorithms at scale, which is used to make AI safe.
yeah,
So
yeah,
this
yeah,
is a very good AI application of AI in the realm of security and safety. So I'd say yes, absolutely explore it even beyond generative AI. This is a gift. You may use that for even regular applications. There's a lot of potential here.
yeah. Makes sense. Any more questions, people on the call? You can post it or unmute yourself to ask it, or maybe reach out to Liz on LinkedIn and other social networking websites.
Lizzie, this is Rajendra. If possible, can you please post the resources link, which I have showed
Yes,
last PPT? Yeah.
absolutely. Thank you. Yes, I will. Okay. So just curious from the audience, has anyone tried content safety and evaluations previously, or is this the first time?
For me, it's the first time. Uh, I have built a couple of chatbots using Copilot Studio, but
Yes.
I have only used the vanilla flavors of Microsoft, what they potentially provide. I never have thought in the direction that you mentioned, Lizzie,
Correct.
today.
Yeah. Well, I hope you are able to expand on your existing chatbots itself, if
Yeah,
it is possible to connect to this and see how it actually works.
yeah,
And
yeah,
sorry, the font
absolutely.
size of this was very large when I put it in chat, so
No
apologies
problem.
for
No
that.
problem. No problem. That's fine for us. Thank you.
Uh,
All right. If you have no more questions, then I want to thank again Lizzie from Daily Tech Community for sparing some time with us and for the community and make people learn this altogether amazing tool. I hope to
abs-
see you in the future uh, speaking as well with us. Yeah,
Absolutely. Thank you for having me. And I hope you have a great rest of the conference as well.
yeah,
Thanks all.
yeah.
Take care. Thanks.
Thanks a lot.
Bye bye.
Bye. So Rajendra, I am stopping
Kumar,
the recording.